because so many people are getting into podcasting and they're like, I want to be a podcaster. And it is a great time to have a podcast, start a podcast. You can make between $15 an hour up to $40, which depending on where you live and what your needs are, the high end looks great. And I know for a fact you can eventually get more than that if you learn certain skills. If you're a creative person and you like podcasts, you should definitely like podcasts if you're going to get into the realm of becoming a podcast promotion person or a podcast social media person. And what I've seen, I'm listening on these, I say social listening, I'm just watching these conversations, and what I like is one of them by Glassdoor, I believe, is Bowls. So people tend to be very honest and very open. And I noticed that a lot of working mother, working woman caregiver, maybe you just don't want to leave the home at night. You could be caring for parents, for animals, for who knows what. But you're looking for something where you can use your computer or your phone and you can get work done for a reasonable hourly wage as your side hustle. And maybe you can even do it on the weekends. A lot of people do not want to do phones because they're tired at the end of the day, or they just hate phones. They don't want to do data entry. They don't want to go anywhere. So I've been looking at both Upwork, Fiverr, and a couple other like freelance sites. I prefer Upwork because the other ones that I've looked at, it's just convoluted. Anyway, what I noticed on Upwork, because on that site I'm listed both as a provider, as a marketer, but also as a freelancer. And what I've seen are a ton of these podcast editing, podcast promotion, podcast pitching, podcast social media, whatever jobs. And I've been saying this for years because so many people are getting into podcasting and they're like, I want to be a podcaster. And it is a great time to have a podcast, start a podcast. I'm really big on podcast guesting. That's my thing, is pitching people, getting them on podcasts. But either way, podcasting's huge. And if you can learn some skills with either free or inexpensive software, you can make between about $15 an hour up to $40, which depending on where you live and what your needs are, the low end of that maybe doesn't look so great, but the high end looks great. And I know for a fact you can eventually get more than that if you learn certain skills. So if you're a creative person and you like podcasts, you should definitely like podcasts if you're going to get into the realm of becoming a podcast promotion person or a podcast social media person or repurposing expert or writing show notes or editing, because you're going to have to listen to podcasts. You're going to have to do that when you're actually editing. So the tools that I want to talk about that will make this really easy for you, the number one tool is a tool that I use and I've talked about before. It's called Descript. Descript has a free version, and it is a tool where you are able to take your audio and audio video, pull it into Descript, and it will automatically create a transcript, assign it to the person's name. So if there's a guest and a speaker, you would want to know who's who. And then it creates that transcript. And then just like you would edit a Word document where you delete, copy, paste, move things around, your audio video editing can be done in the same way. It's amazing. So you can just take this block, move it around down there. If it's video, there's going to be some jump cuts where it looks a little jerky or whatever, but those have become more popular anyway. And you can pull in music, you can pull in B-roll, which is like the videos that you see when someone's talking. You hear their voice, but you're seeing a different video that relates to the thing they're talking about. If it's something that was recorded with two people, you can switch from one person talking to the other pretty easily in Descript. And then when you're done, you can export a transcript, and that transcript can be used for show notes. Part of my process is I take the transcript and I will put it into ChatGPT and I ask it to pull out a summary of the podcast. What are the main points? I usually tell it, you're highly successful, blah, 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 whatever the thing is I want ChatGPT to be, and help me through the lens of that specialist role. And then I get that piece of it, the show notes, and you have to ask it to be a podcast producer expert who understands show notes and what will be a compelling tagline, that kind of thing. And then from there, I can massage it myself, put some human touch on it. I can pull it into another tool, because ChatGPT, you have to be careful because it's not, you don't necessarily own the outcome copyright wise, but it's a really good starting point. It can help you save a ton of time. And the cool thing about when you're taking a podcast and you're taking the transcript, you're taking the original content in the voice of the people. You can ask it to preserve the original voice of the people. So if the people are speaking really casually, and then ChatGPT writes this very professional, stiff piece of content that's a summary, it's going to be weird. You would rather that it be similar to the conversation. I would rather it be more personable and reflect the voices of the people in it. So that's one tool that will allow you to get the video audio in. It'll help you edit it. There's a little tool that you can click on that will remove all of the any white space that's too long, like if they're pausing too long between talking. You can also get rid of ums and likes and I don't knows and that kind of thing. All of those little statements that we make that make the conversation longer but don't really add to the conversation, all of that can be taken out. You just click and it's done. If you want to preserve some of it, you can also look through and say, no, I want to keep this one for effect, because sometimes you might need to say it's like this. It may make sense. You may be using the words in a way that makes total sense and you don't necessarily want to remove it. The tool is smart enough not to remove it in a way that the sentence won't make sense. It won't remove it if it doesn't make sense. And then once that's done, you've done like the first pass that a podcaster would ask you to do. So if they gave you their file, they would generally want you to clean up the spaces, the ums, the ahs, all of those things, tighten it up. They might want you to move things around, like where are the main hooks for the podcast? And you would take those hooks, which again, you can paste that into ChatGPT and have ChatGPT tell you, what are the main hooks in this whole thing? What do you think is going to pull somebody in? So that kind of helps you. And then you can move that piece of content, duplicate it, and move it to the front of the podcast so that the podcast starts out with this really nice hook so that more people want to listen. The same is true if you decide to do a video podcast that's maybe going to go up on YouTube. You would do the same thing. Give them like a short, 15 to 30 second, whet their appetite statement, and then jump into the actual podcast. So this one tool can help you do that stuff very fast. If you had to do all of those things the old-fashioned way using a regular video editing system, oh my gosh, it would take so long, because you'd have to find the timestamps, you'd have to find where it is, and it would just be a nightmare. So Descript, I'll leave a link in the information below. And I am an affiliate, so if you decided to buy it at some point, it is free, but if you decided to buy it, I benefit from that. But I only am an affiliate for tools that I use, and that one I think is just outstanding. Those pieces that I just told you about, all of that is generally the main stuff that people are looking for on Upwork. The next things beyond basic editing, which again, you could do cut and paste in Descript, the next thing would be audio sweetening and measuring out the levels, making things more clean. Descript also has something called Studio Sound, where it goes through and does like a pass where it levels out the sounds of the two people, and it's pretty good. And then if they would want you to make clips, you would also use that transcript. You could go over to ChatGPT and say, hey, where are the points in this video that would be really compelling as 15 to 30 second to 60 second clips for social media, and then you can go through and find those. All you do is select it, you can copy it into its own file, you can turn on captions, where there's a little caption tool that will automatically put captions in, because a lot of the vertical videos do better with captions. If you don't want to put the captions in Descript, you can just take the selected area, you can export it as a vertical video. Then you could pull it into the two tools that I like to use that create captions. One is called Captions. That's the name of the app. It's an app for your phone. And that one you can pull in your 15, 30 second, 60 second clip, and you can have it create really beautiful kind of bouncing animated captions. It can also zoom in and zoom out with the video. You can put music into it. It even has a way to make your eyes, if you're looking up to the corner and around, if you want to make the eyes directly looking at the viewer, you can do it in that tool. So that's called the Captions tool. I use that a lot. If you want to look at any of my YouTube shorts, check that out, because I'm mostly using that one. And then the other one is CapCut. So CapCut has a whole bunch of templates, a whole bunch of really cool effects, and you can use that to do all kinds of neat things that you see a lot on TikTok. those two tools, I think I paid for captions one yearly fee. I have no idea what it is. I'll have to look it up, but I think it was like under $20. And then CapCut, I believe, is free unless you get Pro, and I've paid for Pro so that I can use it on my laptop as well. But you don't have to do that. And there are tons and tons of other tools that you could use that would allow you to take longer video. Let's say there's a video podcast, it goes up to YouTube. You literally could put the URL for that into some of these other tools, and they will just selectively pull out and save what it deems as the best segments from the podcast, the video podcast, or video if you're doing YouTube. So all of these tools together are really cheap compared to if you're getting, let's say you're getting $25 an hour. Descript, even if you paid for it, would be like $24 a month at the most a month. But again, it's free to begin with, so you don't have to worry about that. The other tools are minimal, and that's it. In a very short period of time, you could learn these really basic skills. You could start with doing some work for a low price and then just getting some of these gigs. And then as soon as you've done a certain number successfully, you're going to start to get good ratings. You're going to start to get more momentum. And with Upwork, you can pitch jobs. So if you see one that looks like a good match for you, you just write, hey, I'm a perfect fit for this job, and then explain why. And then you have to share either a little mini portfolio, or you can just share like clips that you've edited to show them your work. And then it's really that easy. And the platform, if you're wondering about Upwork, you're allowed to have a portfolio up there. You're allowed to have a project, like you could sell. Fiverr does, like, here's my project. I do X. Podcast editing, I do podcast pitching, I do podcast show notes, I write podcast show notes for X number of dollars. And a lot of these people have a package where it's like the low end is this much, the middle of the road price, and then the turn it around fast or do extra price. And I think this is a really smart way to make money. And Fiverr, I've used Fiverr. I think Upwork has better options in finding and pitching jobs versus on Fiverr, you're waiting around for people to select you based on the number of stars and ratings and what your services that you provide. But if you're on Upwork, you can look for jobs that you think you'd be good at, because maybe you're interested in podcasting or something else, but you're a strong writer, and you can look for other jobs related to podcast writing. Like maybe somebody needs a script written. Maybe somebody needs you to be the person that writes to their guests and handles their email. So there's just so many things that people need help with related to podcasting. So if you at all are interested in podcasting, I would say this is a very potentially lucrative main hustle or side hustle. You could eventually even create your own little mini agency where that's what you focus on. So I will put some of the tools that I mentioned in the info below. But if you want to know more about any aspect of being a podcast VA, I will make more videos and show you how to use these tools. So consider this just the high level first pass, but I would really like to help people get those jobs, because there are a lot of jobs. And then I would like to know how it goes for you, and how I just would love to support you in that, because I think that it's very lucrative and there just aren't enough people doing it. And I think that it's only gonna grow big time. If you want to know more about how to write the show notes, how to do the editing quickly, how to make those little vertical videos easily for featuring the podcast clips, do you want to know how to pitch or how to conversations with setting up appointments with podcasts, any of those things, research, whatever, I would love to know, and I promise that I will share with you what I know. All for today. I hope you guys have a great day, and if you thought this was valuable, please do, if you haven't subscribed yet, click the subscribe and share, and I will see you on the next episode.